Welcome into a bonus episode of Believe in Panthers here on the Believe Podcast Networks, brought to you by the fine folks over at FanDuel. Desmond Johnson in the house with the Panthers all-time leading rusher, Jonathan Stewart. I know you haven't seen us both together in a couple of weeks, actually, I think now. So we decided we were going to get you guys some bonus material as they're doing the NFL meetings right now. Stu, what's up, man? What's been going on with you?
Not a lot, man. Just watching things from afar. Obviously, keeping up with what's been happening for the Carolina Panthers, which, man, we'll get to. But it's an exciting season. It's an exciting off season, I should say.
First time in a long time,
because everything that they're doing is making sense, dog.
Yeah, it really is. It's scary. I'm sitting and watching do stuff like, oh, that sounds like a good idea, and then they do another one right after it. I'm like, oh, that looks like a good idea too. So we're going to get into it. Dan Morgan had comments with Kay Adams on the Up and Adams show earlier this week. There's 3 spots we're going to hit from there. And then we were talking about it. Me and Stu are huge comic book fans. And if you're a fan of the Marvel universe, whether you just read the books or you're a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there's a specific idea called Anchor Beings. And we'll get into who the Panthers Anchor Beings are going into 2026. So got a little fun for you guys for this. And everything's brought to you by ZipRecruiter and FanDuel. There wasn't really much news from the Panthers in terms of signings or anything like that since the two of us were on screen together. Just some smaller signings in the back end of the roster. The draft is at the end of April. What day did you say the draft was? Was April the 20? We're about a month away.
Yeah, let me check the calendar. The 23rd.
The 23rd. So we've literally got about 3 weeks. It's in Pittsburgh. The Raiders hold the number 1 pick. Everyone assumes they're going to get Fernando Mendoza. We'll start getting deeper into what the Panthers will do with their pick at 19. Will Dan stay at 19 or, will he move up? Will he move down? We don't know. We literally have no idea what this man's going to do, which is the exciting part about it. So I wanted to pull the comments from Dan. And let me go ahead and pull this up here. Dan sitting with Kay Adams at the NFL meetings. And one of the things that he was talking about that caught my attention, she asked him about the perception of the Panthers around the league right now, as opposed to what it was, say, a couple of years ago. And I thought his answer was pretty interesting. We're going to respond and react.
I think usually coming to the owners' meetings, like coming here, like even my first year, like we're just kind of the lowly Panthers. You kind of feel there's not a lot of respect for us. So I kind of feel that respect growing, and we really care about what we think in the building. We really don't care what anybody else thinks, but at the same time, you can kind of feel the perception towards the franchise. And, you definitely feel that shifting to where people are starting to take notice and starting to gain respect. And, we got to go out and earn that.
It's one of my favorite.
Thoughts on Dan's observations that the league is starting to take notice on the Panthers, Stu?
About time. We've been trying to tell y'all.
We had to give him something first, though. We had to give him something respect.
We gave him something, but I think it's about time in the sense of us being Panther fans and guys that follow the Panthers and have been following. It's been a long time coming, and he's right, man. One of the things that's so tough is changing the narrative. Especially right now in this day and age. If you're not a Carolina Panther fan and you're not a true sports fan, everything that you know about the Carolina Panthers could be from 3 years ago, that one time you watched them, right? But the more opportunities that you get to play on a national level, Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, whatever those are, and you go out there and you actually perform like the Carolina Panthers have been able to do last year, especially towards the end of the season. You talk about that Rams game, you talk about the Green Bay game, you talk about certain games in last year's season. They took full advantage of an opportunity to, rewrite the script, and I think they're continuing that in this offseason. I love the fact that, our GM, Dan Morgan, isn't afraid of the camera. He's not afraid of championing, that Panther blue through and through. Obviously, he played here, so it comes natural, right? It comes natural because he was once a player. So he knows what his job is. His job is as far as, standing up for the organization. You know what I'm saying? Putting on for the team in ways that a lot of GMs aren't capable of. Because he played, it's believable. You know what I'm saying? He knows what to say. He knows what to do. He's showing us the blueprint of what he knows to be true as far as how to build a roster, how to build a team. But not just that. How do you show up? How do you how do you go and put your best foot forward in representation of the Carolina Panthers? And he's doing that. And I love the fact that also too, you see Pat McAfee, you see Ocho Cinco, you see certain guys that see it, and these aren't just guys that are just jumping on a bandwagon. These are guys that are like, hold on now. I know we're watching a team, struggle here. We're watching Bryce Young struggle, but there's still glimpses here that give us hope that this is actually a better team than a lot of other teams in the NFL. I mean, you talk about the Cleveland Browns, you talk about the Arizona Cardinals, you talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. There's a portion of teams out there that are really bad and that have been really bad with no hopes in the future and whatnot. So it's just good to hear the Carolina Panthers being talked about in a positive light, because they've been doing things to deserve that.
It's funny you mentioned that Dan is out in the public eye more. I'm sitting there thinking about the other GMs we've had before him, and they're rarely out. They were rarely out in front of the cameras talking about anything. A lot of times they're probably hiding. And didn't want to answer any questions about what's going on.
But it just goes to show you how confident he is, right?
Yeah.
And the players watch this. You know what I'm saying? Like, now, if Dan was not an ex-player, I don't think this would be fitting, in my opinion. But because he's an ex-player, he knows how to talk, like a GM and a player. Mm-hmm. He knows how to exude the confidence that locker room has. He knows how to represent both the front office upstairs, and how to represent that locker room. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little bit of like, man, like the Carolina Panthers, they swagged out. They swagged out through, the top to the bottom. And even when David Tepper gets on Pat McAfee, he does an excellent job of being able to showcase exactly what the organization is through him. He's charismatic. He's a guy's guy. He's funny. He just wants to win. And
I
so
like David Tepper. Yeah,
I've always liked him. You hear Dan Morgan, and it's exuding the same thing. And then you hear, Dave Canales. He's like this perfect coach for the situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, they have a really good thing going on. And so I'm glad a lot of people are getting to see it, 44. Whether it's for the first time, as far as this offseason goes, and starting to see these guys front facing. And then also too, for the people that have been seeing, is just a confidence builder that stacks.
It's infectious. And it's starting to remind me of you guys 2014 into 2015, where after you had the run in 2014, got into the playoffs with a sub 500 record, won a playoff game, buzz started to build a little bit. And then going into 2015, there was like vets that kind of saw what was going on in Charlotte and wanted to come play here. And I feel like that's what's starting to happen now. When you have the right pieces in place in the front office, like we seem to have now, and a coach that players seem to want to play for, a quarterback that players seem to want to play for and get behind, you get those elements together, you start to put something special. Speaking of the quarterback, Kay asked Dan specifically about Bryce Young, and there have been questions about Bryce Young and his future here and everything. I think they've done everything they can to kind of answer those questions. They extended his fifth-year option for 2027, so he will be here through 2027. Depending on the year he has next year, that's when we'll start having the conversations about the long-term extension. And keep in mind who's in our front office, Brant Tillis, who crafted that Patrick Mahomes $500 million deal that he's on. It was like $450 million over 10 years or something like that. But the way they wrote it, he can re-up like after 4 years or 5 years or something crazy. It was good for both sides. Brant Tillis is a magician when it comes to putting these contracts and stuff together. But here was Kay Adams talking to Dan Morgan on the Up and Adams show about Bryce Young and the way the team thinks of him.
Yeah, we picked up his fifth-year option, and Bryce is definitely our future. We have a ton of belief in him. I think you can see by what we're doing around him, we're building around him and what he does. He's just a special guy, just the way he carries himself in the building every day, the leader that he's becoming, the command that he's taking to the offense. Like, we're super excited, as he would say, about
You were in the room when he was drafted.
Yeah.
You were part of that. So what, like when he has a year like he has last year,
Yeah.
how personally rewarding is that for you?
I mean, more so for him than for me, because obviously I'm reaping the benefits of him playing really well. But it just shows, like, for somebody to get benched, come back and be as resilient as he is. I just have so much respect for who he is, not only as a football player, but as a human being. He's a special person. So we're lucky to have him.
I wanted to get your thoughts on that too, because we talked about it when he got benched, and wondering if he would be able to bounce back from it. Because I remember back in the day when it happened, we were like, a lot of people don't come back from being benched after being the number 1 overall pick in the draft. And to his credit, he did. He actually might have been the best thing that happened to him in terms of being able to sit back and just watch the game get slower and observe under Andy and everything else. And now he firmly has his handprints, on this team. This is Bryce Young's team. And I thought I saw the last 10 or 11 games of the season last year, Bryce Young was a top 10 quarterback in the league in terms of statistics and what he was doing. Talk about Bryce and their affection for Bryce Young. I know it feels good that it's starting to look like they got this right, because they gave up a lot to go get Bryce Young. And there was a lot of questions about whether or not they gave up too much. And now, would you rather have Bryce Young or Caleb Williams? That's really what the question ultimately comes down to.
I think we have a battle-tested, on the field, off the field, mental stable of a quarterback, right? Like the mental stability that we'll be able to lean on in times that we need it. I think he's stood that test. I think physically he's gone through some seasons now to be able to feel the effects of the game. He's played through injuries, right? So he's he's gotten himself an opportunity to be on the field and be able to channel that mental pressure of still being able to perform when you're hurt, especially as a quarterback, and a quarterback that has the X factor of escapability, right? So he's been able to put that on. He's been able to go through that. And then you have a season like last year where you are a team, you're a leader of a team where you perform 1 week and the next week it's a dud. And you have this roller coaster ride of knowing that you're good and you should be winning certain games. And now you're having to be this vocal leader on a team that now you feel confident in being vocal because you're putting up these numbers, right? And so this slow development, it's better to cook things slow sometimes, right? Because when you cook it slow, it's tender, right? It's good. It's seasoned. It's more flavor, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like we have a real seasoned quarterback in comparison to a Caleb Williams, just because of that alone, right? And I think he's trending, right? He's not going up and down, right? There's no up and down right now with our quarterback room because he's been consistently just going up this way. Mm-hmm. And when you are an organization, you're Dan Morgan, you see this happen right in front of your face. There was moments where you had doubt. There was moments where you're like, man, we have to pull the plug. I hate it. I hate that we have to bench this guy, but we got to bench him. And then all of a sudden, some things happen, and he comes and shows up and proves everyone why they got him there in the first place. That to me is part of the redemption story that everybody wants to be a part of. Yeah. And if you're a Dan Morgan, that's what you want on your team, because that's the type of football player that you're going to point to as far as, hey, our quarterback is this type of guy, right? He's got grit. He's smaller, but he's probably one of the most grittiest people on that team.
Really, hardly ever hurt, actually, for the size. But that was the main concern we had, was he was going to get banged up, and he's probably one of the more healthier players on the team.
So I think they got something. I think they got more than what they even intended on getting out of Bryce, because of the mental factor that he's been able to exude. through all of the things that he's gone through in his early career, and be able to have him still intact and have him performing. I think you get more out of that than you do of a Caleb Williams in the stretch.
I think for me, if I had any doubts still left over regarding Bryce Young, they were erased by like week 11 or 12 of last year when we kind of went on a little stretch. And then especially the playoff game. I know we lost it, but the fact that it felt like, I mean, we were up with like 2 minutes or whatever to go in the game.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we were fighting like all game. Like there was some stretches where it was like, we have no business being in this game. Like, why are we here? Like, why we're hosting a playoff game? And then you look up and it's fourth quarter and we're doing, 50-yard bombs to wide receivers and the defense is making plays and like the stadium's going nuts. And you're just like, man, this is, they did it. They flipped the switch. They're finally back in national prominence again. And I want them to keep that going for this year.
I look at LaMelo Ball. I'm switching subjects here with the Hornets because the Hornets has been playing really well. They've lost the last 2 games. They need to get their act together.
They beat Brooklyn last night. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going down there Friday. Yeah, they're playing the Pacers Friday.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But LaMelo Ball, I think about this a lot. Or I have been thinking about it a lot since I've been kind of watching the Hornets a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And LaMelo Ball was playing with some guys that didn't really give him any motivation to be better than what he was.
He was. Yeah. Now the guys he has around him now are older, or not older, but they're more mature.
There's more that he's around, right? So he himself is finding, confidence and finding ways to get better, through the people that he's around. And Bryce had to go through that same type of situation where you're a first-round draft pick, you're the quarterback of the Carolina Panthers, and half of the people that you was in here with when you first got here are gone.
Yeah.
So, like, that to me is also something that he's had to go through as far as weathering the storm. Like, I'm trying to get better as a player while also learning who I am, while also learning my teammates. And half of my teammates that I'm learning, they're gone every year. You know what I'm saying? So and coaching staff and all these things, right? So so there's and you talk about him coming in. When he came in, he was coming in during a time where locker rooms were sleepy. Sleepy locker rooms from COVID.
Yeah,
2020. Right. That's a sleepy time. Yep. Right, as far as the chemistry building and all that.
There's no crowds. You're playing in front of like empty arenas.
Yeah, so there's a lot of elements that go into Bryce Young's story, and I'm excited for him to continue to show people who he is and what he can do.
That's a great parallel too, comparing LaMelo to Bryce, because you can kind of see almost same kind of similar pathways. LaMelo's a little bit ahead of Bryce right now, but the Hornets went through a lot of injuries the past 2 years too. So really the main knock on the Hornets was that we've amassed all this top 5 draft pick talent on this team the past 4 or 5 years, but we never see them all together. They're always hurt. So we don't know how good they are. Like, we can't figure this out. This is the very first year where LaMelo has been pretty much healthy from beginning to end. Brandon Miller too. Brandon Miller was a number 2 overall pick. LaMelo was number 3. Con was 4. Miles was 7. I mean, like, we were playing with literally a top 10 starting 5. I can't remember where Musa was drafted, but they're playing with confidence, and Con adds so much. He would be the anchor being.
He would be an anchor being for real.
He stabilizes everything. Like, once you see him, even if he's having an off night, he does all this other. He plays defense, he rebounds, he does all these little things, and he immediately made LaMelo shift to, I don't have to do this alone. I've got somebody.
I can pass
him. Yeah, I got people.
Maybe I can shoot it, and I know somebody's going to get the rebound.
That crazy 28-foot off 1 foot 3-pointer behind the back thing he does.
That boy off the chain.
Well, somebody said they were. I think it was Kevin Garnett. He said he's going to start calling them the Rucker Park Hornets because they play.
Yeah, I saw that Rucker Park. Yeah,
it's crazy because he's right. Like, we caught him on Amazon Prime by accident on Sunday. They were playing 76ers and they lost that game. But me and my wife were sitting here in the living room. I was like, man, they are so fun to watch. Like, it's just fun to just watch the balls. It's like all over the place. One more quote from Dan Morgan from the Up and Adams show, and then we'll get into who we think the Panthers anchor beings are before we get out of here. Where'd he go? Here he goes. Okay, so another question towards the end of this that Kay asked Dams regarding the changes in the front office and how they've been able to quickly assimilate and do some different things than previous regimes. And this was Dan's answer to that.
In such short order, how would you describe that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like working with Dave and Nicole every day is so much fun, and they are so passionate about winning and bringing a championship to the city of Charlotte and the Carolinas. So obviously it starts at the top with them, and they set a good example for myself, for Coach Canales, and just the rest of the building. Like, they're committed to winning, we're committed to winning, and it's all about winning, and I would say too, like, our atmosphere, it's a family atmosphere. Like, all our families are welcome, the players' families, like, we have a family atmosphere. We want people to feel like when they walk in our building that they're part of something special, and they're a big part of it. And it's not just the players, it's not just me, but it's everybody, it's the families.
You guys, it felt like you guys were kind of like that, especially that 2015 season. It felt like that team was extremely tight in terms of not just, on the field, but off the field, in terms of when you're spending time with each other. I remember you told a story about how you and the running back room, you guys would go out and get donuts or something like that, and spend time doing that kind of stuff. How important is that? Because I feel like, especially in sports like football, where so many of them, the teams that do well and win are the ones that are most attached to each other, because you're probably seeing those guys more than you're seeing your family during the football season. So, like, you kind of have to have an affinity for them and actually like who's lining up beside you in order to have a good season, right? I guess there's some that can go in there and just put their head down and go and not build those relationships, but those teams seem like they never actually win anything. How hard is it to build that chemistry?
I mean, it's hard if you don't have the right people in the room. You know what I'm saying? If you have the right people in the room, you're drafting and you're going through free agency and getting the same type of person, not type of personalities, but like the ones that go together like brotherhood, right? You know what I'm saying? Like siblings almost. You have your older siblings, you have your younger siblings. And there's a respect for each other because of the type of humans you are, right? I think back to my time playing, Thomas Davis, Defending Dreams, his charity, like the guys always showed up for his charity events, right? In the off season, whatever it was, people showing up for each other outside of the stadium for whatever they were doing because they believed in that person and ultimately wanting to be a part of something good, right? And I think when you have an organization that you can see, in the future of, what the season's going to be like, man, that we have a pretty good chance here. We got some really solid guys on this team. We got some guys that know how to be pros. We got some young talent that's going to be, potentially, all pro bowlers with their play. That excites you, right? And so when you're excited about coming to work, you're excited not because of just that potential, but because you like the individual that you're sharing a locker with. You know the person, you spend time with them in the off seasons, you show up for things, you go out to lunch, you go out to dinners, you take trips, you show up to this guy's football camp, this youth football camp back in his hometown, because you just want to show up for your brother, right? It becomes true chemistry. And I literally was at an event that that Taylor Moton was a part of. Me and my wife got invited to on Friday. And it was an event for autism. And I saw Jalen Coker there. I saw, Jonathan Brooks there. I saw a bunch of current guys on the roster show up for Taylor Moton. Right. And
awesome.
And this is awesome. And I saw some other guys that were, at other teams at this event. And so when you start seeing that type of movement happen within a team structure where guys are supporting each other, not just on the field, but off the field, that strikes to me that the chemistry, the culture is being cultivated. And that sounds like a guy like David Canales. I feel like he's that energy that has that spreads that and allows that and encourages that within the locker room, right? And then you have Dan Morgan, who's lived it and breathed it. And then also too, like I look at the Levine Gala, like, the things that the Teppers are doing in this city, right? They're not just football focused. They're all about the community and the efforts, and they understand the role in which they're supposed to support, the causes that mean so much to the city to help advance the city as it's already advancing with so many people coming here. They have an opportunity of being a football team that basically showcases what that is, right? Where the football team goes, that's where the confidence of the city goes, in my opinion.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Now you can add the Hornets to that too, in terms of building the morale of the city of Charlotte and the region of the Carolinas. If the football team's doing well, everybody's probably feeling pretty good when they go to work on Monday. If the Hornets are playing good and they're relevant, everybody's probably at least feeling it.
You want me to show up? You want me to show up on Monday?
Yeah.
Last night.
I mean,
I gotta show up. All right.
So it's one of those things where it's like, I love that you mentioned Canales, because in the beginning, his mentality, it almost came off as corny a little bit, because it was all day. There was never an ebb and flow. This is how he is, like all the time. And then once you're around him enough and you hear him enough, you're like, oh, this isn't corny at all. This is actually pretty genuine. Like, this is him. This is who he is. And I would imagine when he's with players, that rubs off and they kind of feel a certain way about it. Opposite with Dan Morgan. Dan Morgan strikes me as being like this calm yet intense personality. Like,
cool, laid back, but like cool though.
Like, I will spear you in the hallway. Like, if it comes down to it.
If you need me to.
So like that comes off from him. And the confidence.
I will bust your head wide open if you need me to.
Sit there that entire interview.
If you want to. But if you want to be cool, we can be cool.
He got that Miami in him. That's what it is. Like,
he saw him wearing them shades.
That's what I was about to say. Like, he did that whole interview with sunglasses on.
Yeah, that man too cool, man.
He's too cool for it. So
we got the swaggiest, coolest, most
we already talked about Tepper,
out the gym.
Yeah,
biceps busting through his shirts.
Tepper
sunglass
walking around like Paul
GM
Heyman,
and all NFL.
And Tepper walking around like Paul Heyman, just like running the whole show. Like, and you can tell David Tepper's enjoying it too, because he took his lumps also, especially from the city of Charlotte, and he didn't give up. He didn't quit.
Oh man,
he kept plugging away till he started getting.
That's what keep pounding is all about, right?
Yeah, like, exactly.
Think about it. You watching a team, do what they chant every Sunday, every day,
and the fans will come. But this area has proven over 30 years that there'll be some times where the Panthers are down and the fans might check out because they get sick of investing their time like over and over again, something like this. But the very moment that it looks like they've turned it around and they're starting to become a squad, like a little team, the whole area just like
we back,
electric blue.
We outside.
Like, we never left. We out here. Let's go. Like it's crazy. Just seeing that playoff game and seeing the city of Charlotte just act up, like that was fun. That was fun. I want that like every Sunday, and I think they're trying to get that back. And I'm glad that they've included former Panther players. And I hope my Carolina Tar Heels don't make the mistake that we did.
Man, we ain't talking about the Tar Heels right now, boy. Them boys, sorry.
I'm scared, dog. Like, this is the first time they're gonna pick somebody out of the Dean Smith tree.
Y'all might not be good for next 15 years, man. You ready for that?
They talking about Tommy Lloyd from Arizona. Like, I don't know how I feel about any of it. Like,
y'all last hope was Michael Jordan. He ain't got time for it. He over here winning NASCAR games.
As a coach. Nah. They said he called Tommy Lloyd though. So if Michael Jordan calls you and they're like, "Hey man, you want to come coach Star?" That might be hard to say no. The dude hasn't said no yet. He's been asked in press conferences because Arizona's in the Final Four Saturday, and they're asking about Carolina. He hadn't said no. He's like, "Look, I told y'all somebody else is going to coach Arizona eventually. I didn't say when." I'm like, they talked to you already. They already talked to you. Like, you gonna leave. So we'll find out. Before we get to the Anchor Beings, because we do gotta get out of here, I gotta read. I gotta read this. I gotta do this. This ad.
Yeah, we're talking about Zip Recruiter.
So you guys know I own Tobacco Road Sports Radio. We do a bunch of different podcasts, live sports, and stuff here in North Carolina. So I'm constantly hiring people to be independent contractors to come in and actually produce games when I'm doing another game someplace else, or to do podcasts or whatnot. And
what do you use to do that?
ZipRecruiter, and Indeed, but mainly ZipRecruiter, primarily ZipRecruiter, because with ZipRecruiter, you can actually get the sense of how eager they are for the job. Like you can kind of sense if they're a good fit or not with some of the tools that ZipRecruiter has. And if you're hiring, you want a candidate who actually really wants to be there. You don't want to hire somebody who's gonna be gone in like 3 months or whatever. So with ZipRecruiter, you can basically do that. And now if you are a recruiter and you're trying to hire folks, now ZipRecruiter is running a special deal here where their powerful matching technology will find qualified candidates quickly. A new feature this shows you the most interested qualified candidates first, so you meet the right people faster, and they can tell you in their own words why they're interested in the job. ZipRecruiter is the #1 rated hiring site based on G2. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free right there. ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter.com/audio and meet your match on ZipRecruiter. You can find candidates who really want your job on ZipRecruiter.com. And
I might need to get some Zip recruiting.
Hey man, there's a lot of candidates out there for stuff. So I might have to get on it myself and look around and see what's going on. But we were talking about when we were planning the show yesterday. We were talking about how we're both huge comic book fans, Marvel fans in particular. And something, if you're a Marvel fan, you know that in Wolverine or Deadpool and Wolverine, this this idea was introduced, and it's in the comic books already. But it's called basically an anchor being. And an anchor being, the definition of it, an anchor being in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a singularly vital individual whose existence stabilizes their entire reality. So basically, without that person has to exist in that timeline, that reality, for that reality to even exist. If that person disappears,
just his presence,
just their presence being there is enough for them to do. They don't have to do anything special. They're just there. There's one anchor per universe. They're essential for preventing reality degradation. So in that movie, if you watch Deadpool and Wolverine, I don't think I'm spoiling anything. It's been out for like 4 years now or whatnot. But Wolverine was the anchor being on his Earth. And then when he died in Logan, the movie Logan, that universe crumbled and disappeared. And that's how they're kind of pushing everything together into one main timeline over in Marvel. So now we've given you the Marvel the Marvel explanation of what the hell's going on with the multiverse stuff. We wanted to pick out who are the anchor beings on the Carolina Panthers, meaning who are the guys that if they're here and they're playing, our reality is more stabilized than if they're not playing. And we got some choices here. You want to just go back and forth? I picked 6 slots for this. They don't have to.
I'm gonna start it off with I'm gonna start it off with the most obvious one.
Okay.
Derek Brown.
Yep. Check
okay.
Ding.
He is the only guaranteed elite player on the roster.
How has this boy not made the Pro Bowl the past 2 years? Last 2 years ago he was hurt.
He's been getting jaded, man. Look, he is elite. No matter what, he can be elite just sitting on the bench because that boy is that good. Okay, Derek Brown. If I had to give Derek Brown a superhero name, guess who it would be?
Boulder.
Just making up a name. I was going to go off of.
I don't know what it would be. Well,
the ones that already exist.
Incredible Hulk.
Boy, duh. we got Derek Brown, the Incredible Hulk. Guaranteed elite player on the roster right now. There's a couple other guys that are elite as well. Yeah, but we're gonna go with Derek Brown for sure.
So Derek Brown gets the check mark. I'll stay on the defensive side too. I'll add JC Horn to that anchor being list just for all the stuff you said. Now, Mike Jackson helped out a lot the back half of last season where he got to the point where I almost put him on this list too. I think he might be one of the best number 2 cornerbacks in the league, and we got him for a steal. So you got Mike Jack over here and JC Horn, who made the Pro Bowl. I don't remember if he made the All-Pro team or not. He probably should have. 5 interceptions, I believe, last year. He finally had a healthy season. Same thing. Finally had a healthy year where we saw him out in the field, and he was surrounded by some players finally, instead of like his rookie year where he was really out there on an island by himself. I would put JC out there. If JC is out there, the secondary is way more stabilized than if he's not out there. If he's not out there, we're kind of scrambling a little bit. But if he's
you know what that explanation you just gave me remind me of?
What's that?
Captain America shield, that vibranium shield. That's what JC Horn is. He's the vibranium shield.
I see that.
Because whenever that shield shows up, it's causing problems.
Okay, ain't a whole lot that's gonna break it either. Like you're gonna need some sort of.
You're gonna need Thor's hammer.
Thanos, something to get through it. So we got Derek Brown and J.C. Horn. Who else you want to throw on here for a Panthers anchor being for the 2026 season?
Man,
he's
he's new to the squad, and we have to talk about him. He ain't played a snap. We have to go Devin Lloyd.
I was wondering if we were going to put one of the new guys on here, Devin Lloyd. Okay, talk to me about this, because he was a needed pick, and shout out to Dan Morgan. He got high grades for this signing. He was probably the best linebacker in free agency. Dan signed the best left tackle in free agency. He signed the best edge rusher in free agency. So Devin Lloyd should be able. One of the spaces we said that we were worried about on the roster depth-wise was linebacker, and I'm starting to feel like they're probably going to go linebacker. Actually, I don't know what they're going to do at 19. I shouldn't even say that, because I don't think they know exactly what they're going to do until it actually starts to happen.
We can talk about that briefly, but I know what I have a good feeling about what we should be getting.
We'll do it on the next episode when we get into next week with the draft and stuff. So Devin Lloyd, you're putting him. So Derek Brown, J.C. Horn, Devin Lloyd, all three defensive players, and actually pretty interesting, all three levels of the defense. So whenever we've had a defense here in Carolina that's got one of these kind of guys at all three levels at the same time, we are a problem. Usually, we usually bet on it. Like, we're usually some sort of problem. So you picked Devin Lloyd. I'm gonna go with the obvious. Bryce Young just on his 5th-year extension. Really took control of leadership of the team last year. I felt like there was a couple of games last year where Bryce won them, like went out and won them, like started to get a reputation of like fourth quarter killer, like Grim Reaper guy, like don't let this dude have the ball in his hands with 4 minutes left in the game type stuff. And he was doing it with a mismatched offensive line most of the year last year. Didn't really have his number one running back until about the third of the way. Well, about a third left of the year, Chuba started looking healthier. And Tet was really his main weapon in the passing game that was consistent. So, and it's a rookie. So, I mean, Bryce, I think they showed how much they want Bryce to remain to be the leader and to be that anchor being by giving him his extension and letting Andy Dalton go. Trading Andy Dalton to Philly for a 7th-round pick just to get him out. You bring in Kenny Pickett, is clearly going to be the backup underneath Bryce. You've basically given Bryce the keys to the car. Like, this is yours now. Don't wreck it. Keep it clean, and let's go for a ride. Let's go see what we could do. So I'll pick Bryce Young.
Bryce Young was good. I had him on my list too.
Okay, good.
We might as well call him Dr. Strange.
Yeah, very much, because he's some of the stuff he did. We were like, oh man, like how do you do that? Like, like he was dropping some dimes last year. Like
most passing yards in a single season, single game.
Right.
You know,
Bryce Young
here putting out numbers, man.
Go figure. Like, just nuts. Like what? Bryce Young, 500-something yards. We got 3 more slots here. So you got Bryce Young, Derek Brown, J.C. Horn, and Devin Lloyd, which I did not expect to be on there. Actually, we got 2 more spots. I'm sorry.
Yeah, 2 more spots.
Yeah.
Obviously T-Mac, right?
Him too. Yep.
You know, that's your wide receiver.
Offensive rookie of the year.
Offensive rookie of the year. You know, he showed his size, his catch radius, and his friendliness to the quarterback last year. You know, immediate red zone impact. I mean, you know, he was the guy that was called on last year to jumpstart this offense, right? So I obviously think this is definitely one of your core guys, those pillars that you're going to need going in to this season. And he's got a whole off season. Like, man, when you have a guy like T-Mac, man, Tetarora McMillan, sorry, mom, T-Mac's mom, Tetarora's mom.
Sorry.
When you see a guy like this that has a performance in his rookie year, you're just so excited because you know he's going to put in that work in the offseason and come back even better.
That's scary.
That's
scary.
Crazy.
If him and Bryce are someplace in California right now, just throwing the ball back and forth, just honing their craft, like, and they probably are. Like, that's the thing, because at this point last year, we didn't know. That's why I was so adamant they were going to go defense, because Dan had the smoke screen of smoke screens up. He didn't say a word about Ted McMillan. He didn't say anything about getting a wide receiver until it happened, and he was like, "Oh yeah, him and Bryce been throwing for like the past 2 months in California. Like Bryce kind of
really?
right. I was like, what?
Y'all didn't want to tell us that?
Hell? Nobody want to say nothing. Like I would have changed my whole mentality instead of getting flamed on X for like 2 months for thinking we're going defense.
Well, that's what you get.
Yeah, I guess so. Because then shame on me because dude ended up being absolutely right and became the offensive rookie of the year. So I will not question Dan Morgan ever again. There's one slot, and I had 2 players, and I'm trying to figure out which deserves it more: Chuba Hubbard or Robert Hunt. Because we actually saw what happens to the offensive line last year without Robert Hunt because he missed the majority of the season. And then we kind of saw what happened to the run game without Chuba because he was hurt at the very first part of the season. And we saw what happened when they came back. So
we just call them both what it is. They're the juggernaut.
Put them both in there?
Yeah, the juggernaut.
Because see, Devin Lloyd was the one I did not have on my list.
Okay. So
we added a 7th in Devin Lloyd. So you got Bryce Young, Derek Brown, J.C. Horn, Ted McMillan, Robert Hunt, Chuba Hubbard, Devin Lloyd. Those are your anchor being, and all of them are different positions. Bryce QB, Ted wide receiver. All 3 levels of the defense are covered. Your running back is covered. Your offensive line is covered. So we did a pretty good job, actually. It's like we hit pretty much all the levels of everything on there. And that's if one of those guys is missing. This is the key. If one of these guys is missing on game day, that might pose a problem.
Right.
If they're all out there, that might pose a problem for the opposing team. So I just like where we are. I like where we are right now. I like the energy. I like the fact that we're going into this draft purely best available, like BPA. Like I'm pretty sure they're going to go best player available. We might go get another wide receiver. Like who knows? I'm starting to think they might end up with that tight end you like from Oregon.
Sadiq. Yeah, go ahead and get him. We get him. It's over with.
Either him or the tackle I was talking to Joe DeLeon when he was on with us, Proctor from Alabama.
Yeah, Proctor from Alabama's
like 6'7", 3.
If he's there, man, you definitely can't go wrong with protecting your quarterback. Everything that you get at the 19th spot, in my opinion, you do for your quarterback.
That's what I'm starting to think too.
You know what I'm saying?
First round. Yeah.
I would make sure that we protect that guy.
That way you
find him another weapon.
That way you can fully evaluate if you want to give him whatever contract extension after their 5th year. So he's going into year 4. So you still got 2 years kind of do this. But the earlier you do this, Jerry Jones, the earlier you do this, the less money you will probably spend. So
whatever that 19th pick is, it has to be somebody that's going to come in and be an immediate impact. Can't be a depth guy. We're not getting guys on the roster just to be like, okay, yeah, we'll fulfill this spot, and have somebody come in at depth. No, that 19th pick needs to be somebody that's going to come in and play. You
could trade that thing down if you're going to do that. If that's the case, pick up a couple seconds or something. But and that's why I'm pushing off Proctor because I'm like, we're sitting there worried about Icky and that left side. Taylor Moton's in the twilight of his career. Like, how many years does Taylor have left? Like, you really need a right tackle too. So
Taylor Moton got about 4 more years left, man. Everybody relax, man. That boy built like a tank.
He is built like a tank. I should put Taylor Moton on here because he's been the one constant, like, out of all this. Like, Taylor Moton's probably been on the team longer than everybody else. So I think we hit all the hot spots. We're going to head out. We should be back. We'll start our draft coverage. I think my light just said it's time to stop. So we'll start hitting our draft coverage with the Panthers starting next week, and we'll have some guests. You can catch the episode with Dalton Wasserman that we did earlier in the week. It's on Believe's YouTube channel right now, and of course the podcast network, so you can find all that stuff there. And we'll start getting this coverage in. The draft again starts April 23rd through the 25th. It's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It'll be on ESPN, ABC, and the NFL Network. So as a Thursday, that'll start there. And we have pick 19 as it stands right now. So we will we'll see what the Panthers do, and we will see you guys next week. So for Jonathan Stewart, this is Desmond Johnson. You've been watching and listening to the Believe in Panthers podcast here on Believe Podcast Networks, brought to you by the fine folks over at FanDuel and ZipRecruiter. Keep pounding.